All right, let's dive in. Today we're going deep on signs of the end times, as described in Islamic theology.
It is fascinating stuff.
It really is. It gets you thinking.
Absolutely.
So we're drawing from interpretations
True.
of the Quran and Hadiths, focusing on Gog and Magog, Jerusalem, and Hajj.
And how those might all be connected.
Yeah, it's a lot. So for those who might not know, who are Gog and Magog, and why should we care?
Gog and Magog are figures in the Quran. They're prophesied to cause fasad.
Fasad.
Basically, widespread corruption, chaos and disruption. Really bad news.
That does sound bad.
There's a lot of debate about what they actually are. Some say they're human, some say jinn.
Like supernatural beings.
Exactly. And there are other theories, too.
So they're these almost mythical beings that could end the world as we know it. What does the source say about them?
The source leans towards them being human. They base this on a story about Dhul Qarnayn. He built a massive barrier to hold them back.
So like a legendary king or something.
Yes.
So if they were jinn, couldn't they just pass through any barrier?
Exactly. That's what the source argues. The fact they're contained suggests a physical form.
So not ghosts or demons, but actual people.
That's the idea.
But this barrier
Yep.
must have been something else to hold them back.
Oh, absolutely. The source emphasizes their incredible power. Even Dhul Qarnayn couldn't defeat them. He could only contain them.
Wow.
And this connects to a hadith in Sahih Muslim.
Hadiths are sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, right?
Yes.
So on.
This hadith describes God creating beings so mighty that only he can destroy them.
Okay, so Gog and Magog fit that description, these super powerful beings destined to wreak havoc. But how does Jerusalem fit into all this? Why is that city so important?
That's where it gets really interesting. The source points to a passage in Surah Al-Anbiya.
All right.
It mentions a town whose people were expelled by God, and they can't return until Gog and Magog are released.
Wait, so you're saying there's this town in the Quran, and if people were kicked out,
Yeah.
and they can't go back until Gog and Magog are set free,
Exactly.
and the source interprets this town as Jerusalem.
After looking at different opinions, yes?
Jerusalem. So there's a direct link between Jerusalem and these world-ending beings.
According to the source, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they go a step further. They believe this expulsion refers to both Jews and Christians.
What are they called again?
Alul Kitab, people of the book.
Right.
So the return of Jews and Christians to Jerusalem is somehow connected to the release of Gog and Magog.
It's like one event setting off another, eventually leading to this huge historical shift.
Exactly. The return of Gog and Magog, along with everything else, will be a turning point in history, impossible to miss. They will have unmatched power, dominating everything, taking control of the world.
Wow, that's intense. So we've got the arrival of Gog and Magog, a potential connection to the return of Jews and Christians to Jerusalem. It's a lot to process. You mentioned the Hajj pilgrimage too, right? How does that fit into all this?
That's another fascinating piece. The source mentions a hadith from Sahih Bukhari.
Okay.
This hadith states that people will continue to perform Hajj and Umrah, the pilgrimages to Mecca, even after Gog and Magog have emerged.
So Hajj continues, even after they show up.
Yes, but here's the catch. The hadith also says that Hajj will eventually cease before the Day of Judgment.
So Hajj keeps going for a while after Gog and Magog show up, but then it stops before the Day of Judgment. What does the source make of that?
It's definitely significant. The source connects it to potential conflicts. They mention a possible conflict involving Israel and Iran, suggesting that a war could disrupt the Hajj.
So the idea is that Hajj stopping
Mm-hmm.
would be a clear sign of the end times.
Exactly.
It's heavy stuff. It makes you think about how current events and prophecies and these ancient figures could all be connected. But going back to Gog and Magog, you said the source believes they're human. But if they are human, where are they from? Where have they been all this time?
That's puzzled scholars for centuries. The Quran doesn't give us a location, but it does describe them as being behind a barrier built by Dhul Qarnayn.
Right, that barrier. Any ideas where it might be?
The exact location is debated, but some interpretations place it in the Caucasus Mountains.
The Caucasus Mountains. So somewhere in those mountains, these incredibly powerful figures are just waiting. It's like something out of a fantasy novel.
It's a captivating image. The source really emphasizes that their emergence will be impossible to miss. They will have such force and power. It'll be absolutely clear who they are.
It's a bit daunting, to be honest. Makes you wonder what anyone can do to prepare. But there's another part I want to go back to. The return of the Alul Kitab to Jerusalem. What's the significance of that in relation to Gog and Magog?
It's not necessarily cause and effect, But the source does seem to interpret the return of the Alul Kitab, both Jews and Christians, as a key event that takes place right before or at the same time as the release of Gog and Magog.
So their return could be part of a larger chain of events, a sign that things are moving toward that final confrontation.
That seems to be the implication, yes. It's like all these events are on a divine timeline, unfolding in order, with the return of the Alul Kitab to Jerusalem being a turning point, a signal that we're entering a new phase, one that leads to the confrontation with Gog and Magog.
It's pretty overwhelming. If this is accurate, what can anyone do to prepare? It feels beyond comprehension.
A question worth pondering, and it's been debated for centuries. The source doesn't give specific actions, but they do emphasize recognizing the signs and reflecting on their meaning.
So it's not just about knowing it might happen, but understanding what it means for us, for humanity, for our relationship with the divine.
Exactly. It's about grappling with these concepts, engaging with the prophecies, and maybe re-examining our beliefs and values.
That's deep. So using this knowledge to reflect on our lives and our place in the world.
Exactly.
It's a lot to take in. Gog and Magog waiting to be unleashed, the return of Jews and Christians to Jerusalem, maybe even triggering their release, and then Hajj being disrupted, signaling the end times.
It is a compelling narrative.
It really is.
It makes you think about how we interpret these prophecies in the context of our modern world. It's easy to dismiss them as just stories, but when you see how they connect to current events, it makes you stop and think.
Exactly. It's not just about some far-off event. It's about what it could mean for us right now. And the source makes that connection between conflicts in the Middle East,
Right.
specifically Israel and Iran, and the disruption of Hajj.
Right. And it's not just about one specific conflict. The source is highlighting how real-world events, especially global ones, could be part of this larger unfolding, leading to the end times.
So these aren't just abstract concepts.
Wow. They're forces that could affect us all.
It's a sobering thought. And it goes back to what you said earlier about reflection. If this is accurate, then understanding these signs isn't just about curiosity. It's about preparing ourselves
Absolutely.
mentally and spiritually for what might be coming.
I agree. And it raises the question of our own role in this. If we believe these events are part of a divine plan, maybe we have a responsibility to act accordingly.
To act out.
To strive for peace and understanding, to contribute to a better world.
Regardless of what the future holds.
Exactly.
So it's not about passively waiting for the end.
No.
It's about actively creating a better world.
Right. And in a way, that message goes beyond any one religion. It's a universal call to action, to embrace our shared humanity and work towards a future with hope and compassion.
That's a great note to end on, a call to action. It's been a fascinating deep dive into a complex and thought-provoking topic. And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, to dig deeper into the source material, and to form your own conclusions. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep seeking knowledge